I'm BugeyeBob, and I'm on a mission to resurrect this 1958 Austin Healey Mark I Sprite from this to this so it doesn't end up in this. Keep wanting to put my arm on that thing. BugeyeBob here, back on the A-pillars. So I've been working on fitting the replacement A-pillar parts on the left-hand side, and after much pounding and beating and having to rearrange where the bend line was on one of the pieces, got it kind of where the pieces fit together pretty good. But one of the things I've got to do is there's nuts that are captured nuts that get welded to these A-pillar pieces, and those captured nuts are 1/2 of what holds the windshield frame on each side. The other half is an actual nut that you can get at from when you have the door open on the car. So let's talk about those for just a second. Let me grab this pillar. This pillar goes on the other side of the vehicle. It would sit, so if I'm the front of the vehicle, then it's going to sit. If I'm the front of the vehicle, it's going to sit like this. This is where the engine's area is going to be. And it's spot welded to this piece. As you can see, it's a little piece made out of sheet metal that captures that nut in there, so that when you go to bolt the windshield frame down, you got something to bolt into. All fine and dandy. I haven't been able to find any place to buy these replacement captured nuts, which means I'm going to have to save the original ones. Let's take a look at this side of the vehicle. This piece was from this side and originally went on about like that. This piece was spot welded in on this piece underneath of it and was in there about like that. So I've got to get this into where this hole is, which means I've got to drill a hole for it here. But the other problem I've got is whoever made these filler pieces for the A-pillars, they cut the material short along in here. It should come up about another 3/8 of an inch. It doesn't. You can see, you compare, there's the end of it right there on this piece, and here's the end of it on this piece. So there's a good 3/8 of an inch missing. This was originally spot welded together, and then they put lead in there to body finish the metal on the seam. I don't think I'm going to be using lead. But anyways, this is the piece that came out of there. What I'll do is I'll take both of these pieces and soak them in evaporust for days, weeks, however long it takes, to get all of the crud off of them. And hopefully when I'm done, it looks like this area in here, which is the part that's critical, is still good, so hopefully we're okay that way. So, talked about the fact that this piece here needs to be extended. It's got to have a hole drilled in it, got to probably have another hole drilled in it right there. And let's talk about a couple other things. We will take this piece off, and you'll see that I've drawn a line down through here. And the reason is, that's the outer pillar. This is the inner pillar piece. This has pieces in it for the door to screw into. And take that piece out. And what we have here is a mess, because this piece is rusted out down here, and this piece on the inside runs all the way over to here, curves up around, comes up, over, across, and down. It's pretty good. These holes right here are where the spot welds used to be. Pretty good just the other side of those spot welds. But it's rusted out real bad from like here back. So I'm going to cut this piece out, make a pattern, and weld in a new one and put in new nuts for the door hinge strap. The strap that keeps the door from opening too far. I got to make replacement panels for where the A-pillars go. Both sides are really rusted out, real mess. So I've cut out new metal for those, like so. The problem is, going back to this one, this has a 1/2 inch flange on the bottom where it connects over the inner sill. So the problem I have is I don't have anything that'll make a 1/2 inch flange, but I got a vise. So Fitzy Fabrications showed doing this. So what you do is get it to right side around. You take a chisel, that's flattened off on the end, put it up against the piece like so, and drive this metal back that way. And what you got to do is you got to make sure that that's offset 1 material thickness. I think that'll work. All I need to do now is weld on the nuts that go here for the door straps. And I think I can, I'll have to trim off these upper edges here a little bit. One of the things that surprised me, I thought this edge would be clean cut straight because that's the way the car, straight out of the factory. But you know what? You look at that and you can see that that was never straight. Up here at the top, it back that way. So fun while. All right, that's it for that. So I've got these replacement panels welded in on each side. You can see this one was all eaten up with rust. Pretty nasty looking. This one on the driver's side was eaten up even worse, even nastier looking. So I cut new pieces out. I think I recorded how I bent the flanges on these. I'd had these braces welded in to hold everything in alignment, and when I had to cut this loose, I noticed that the front top deck, whatever you call that there, tended to want to drop down. So what I did was I tried to make sure to get this lined up on each side to where this lines up with that edge, and then I measured the angle on the other side that this one was sitting at, and it was 1.7 degrees. And so I came over to this side and tried to get this one set to where when all of this was in there, it was at 1.7 degrees. The way that I put these in was I used Fitzy Fabrications technique of cut and butt. So originally, if I grab this one, you'll notice that the new panel is wider than the old panel. So I just went and cut down through here. When I cut out the old panel, that left about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of metal behind here. And then I went in and I did some tack welds to make sure I got everything positioned where I wanted. Then I went back and cut at an angle so that the two pieces were kind of like this, and about a 45-degree angle works best. And then came back and aligned this all up so that these surfaces were level. Now, you have a problem because the old material is 19 gauge. The new material is 18 gauge, and the old material being 19 gauge and rusted is probably more like 20 gauge now. But anyways, what I did to line everything up was I took a ruler, one of these steel rulers, and I tried to get the metal to where it was, this surface here was flat against the ruler on both sides. That's going to leave a tiny bit of a lip on the inside. I don't care. We can smooth that down. It's in a wheel well or in a foot well. Whoever looks in there, whatever. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. One trick I learned when doing this, that if you're in a situation where you can put one of these clamps in, and it's one side is sticking out higher than the other, you can actually twist this a little bit. You want to get that tighter than what I got. You can actually twist this a little bit and make those edges line up even better to where they're flat. And what I did when I was twisting it was I would find the spot where everything lined up right, and then I would use one of these little clamps just to get that, just to hold this in position while I was doing the tack welds. So put this on real tight, twist it a little bit, whichever way you have to go to get the faces to line up, then hold it with another one and then hit your tacks. Now, let's talk about my tacks. You may have noticed in my my past episodes where I was getting horrible looking tacks. I was running, there's a standard rule of thumb that says, yeah, you want to use 1 amp per thousandth of an inch of material thickness. Yeah, okay. Turns out that's good for TIG. But when you're tacking sheet metal, particularly 18 gauge, what really happens is there's two problems. One is that will just kind of build up on the surface and not really penetrate. And if there's any crud, it's going to make little snowmen, which is what I was having a problem doing. Why was I getting snowmen? Well, that's part of the problem. The other problem is if you have your torch too far away from the material you're welding, if it's like 1/2 an inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, like I had at times, basically your shielding gas isn't going to work right. And one of the things you'll see is you'll see the wire shoot out, burn off, shoot out, burn off, shoot out, burn off, and it's crap. You got to get that TIG torch right down close. 1/4 inch is probably about optimal as far as I can tell. Once I started doing that, it was blip, 1, 2, boop, off. A second or 2 seconds was all, and my tack welds started looking really good. And I've ground them down. I really should have saved so you could see some of them. Here you can see where I filled in as if they were spot welds. And again, one of the other things I forgot to tell you was I cranked my amperage up to 125 amps. So this material is about 43 thousandths, I think. So I'm almost 3 times the thickness of the material in amperage. So 125 amps, and it's blip, short little hits, blip, short little hits. Even when I welded down inside there, I was running 125 amps. I did blow through in a couple of spots, but that's also where I noticed if you run too fast on a weld, even at that high of an amperage, it just beads up on top. You have to slow down and use the right speed for the amperage and the material thickness. And then your welds lay down and look good. If you don't do that, your welds will look like shit. So anyways, that's where we're at on that. One thing I do know is once I get this outer sill off, I'm going to have to do some repair work right in here on the bottom of this part also. But the rest of this here on each side, I am going to TIG weld because I can hammer and dolly the TIG welds down. So far, this really has very little distortion in it. And if you don't believe me, I got just a tiny, tiny bit. But for the most part, there's almost no distortion in those tack welds. So in fast, with high amperage, out fast. Just tiny little burst of tack welds. And I also welded on these 2 ears. These 2 ears stuck out and were kind of rotted out, and they're kind of designed. They should fit along like this so that this outside surface here is level with this, and I mean, that's pretty damn close, I think. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. Got to do this down. Again, this part here will be all TIG welded up also. Okay, that takes care of those buggers. I'm not going to show welding these up with TIG and hammering them down them out. I mean, that's shit. You want to watch that? There's hundreds of videos out there where people do that. This has to get done before I can put in the A-pillars, the inner and outer A-pillars. And when I put on the inner and outer A-pillars, one of the things that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get the doors down and reset everything for the doors to make sure that my door gap and everything is correct and lined up properly for where the A-pillars are going to sit. Because if I don't do that, something ain't going to be right. I don't know what'll be wrong, but something ain't going to be right. Also, I've got to weld in these captured nuts that go up in here, like so, for the windshield to mount to. Captured nut on each side at the front, and then a regular nut in the back. And so that's, plus I got I'm going to have to put some weld-through primer on here. Despite them calling it weld-through primer, I think if you can, what you want to, you of course want to prime this with something so it's less likely to rust. But I think you also want to scrape that shit off. Maybe use weld-through primer so that you don't have to scrape a bunch of stuff off. A little thin layer of weld-through primer is all right. If you put on a thick layer, it's going to mess things up. So that's the story on that. And I think that pretty much wraps it up as far as the A-pillars for the moment. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of BugeyeBob. I really appreciate you watching and hope that, like me, you've learned a few things to do, or maybe not to do, in this episode. Please like and comment on this video as it encourages YouTube to share it with others and helps grow the channel. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell to get notified when new videos are released. If you'd like to support this channel and save Lazarus from the recycle furnace, you can now make a one-time or recurring donation through PayPal. You can also support this restoration project by becoming a member at patreon.com/BugeyeBob. Patreon members get early access to the videos, and in the future will enjoy question and answer sessions and live streams. As this channel grows, future Patreon member benefits will include bonus or extended videos, member names in the credits, and the ability to suggest topics for future videos. You can follow this BugeyeBob restoration on YouTube and Facebook. You'll find the links in the description below for PayPal, Patreon, YouTube, and Facebook. Once again, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and supporting this channel.